So that's customer to customer. Say we move on to company to customer. We have a whole range of organizations out there rushing to get their presence on social media platforms, whether it's to set up a Facebook site, whether it's to tweet on a regular basis, or maybe even have their own review site. And here's some examples of British Airways with its Facebook site, Sheraton setting up its own review site to compete to some extent with TripAdvisor, and KLM responding to any customer complaints on Twitter. Now, all of these organizations are rushing to do this because they see other organizations having similar social media platforms, also being present on Facebook, and thinking, well, if they're there, we have to be there as well. However, this is different from any advertising, because to some extent, you can be out there on Facebook, you can be out there on these social media sites, but you can still be ignored. Whereas on television, we can put an advert in the middle of News at 10, and we have some idea of the number of people that are likely to see that advert on television because of the number of people viewing that particular program. Here, there's no compassion on anybody, or there's no need to actually force people to actually go and look at this particular site that you may have put on Facebook. They choose to actually come. So unlike traditional advertising, people choose to come to your sites, they choose to read your message, they choose to watch your YouTube video. You haven't got an opportunity of putting it in front of them, you've actually got to get them to come to you to actually look at these particular sites. So therefore you have far less control of your content, the reach of who you can get to, which people will actually look at this particular site, and how frequently they'll come. They may come to your site once and never come back again, whereas with advertising you can keep putting that advert out in front of them on a regular basis. Here it may be more difficult. If they don't find it attractive, they won't come back. So if content isn't interesting, it isn't valuable as far as people are concerned, then you may be wasting your time putting your effort into Facebook, Twitter sites, etc. People will go elsewhere, they won't listen to you or monitor your tweets. They may simply see your site as a site that they go to simply when they have something to complain about, or if they think they're going to get something for free, or there's going to be discounts offered, etc. If they can't find the discounts, they won't come back, and they'll only come back if they've got something to complain about. So there is an issue about you don't just have a social media site because everybody else has one, because to some extent it may have no specific benefit to the organization at all. Why do customers actually go to company sites? Why do you go to the Starbucks site? Why do you go to other organizations' sites such as the British Airways site? Well, people will tend to go to a social media site if they think there is value and usefulness in the information that's there. Information that they want or they feel they have a need for at that point in time. An example of that would be something similar to Mumsnet, which is a community for young mothers or mothers who have had young children. Community where mothers have had children, that they will actually go to that particular site, maybe to help them work out how they should feed or how they should bath or how they should do things with their particular children because they feel that they don't have enough knowledge in that area. So they go to Mumsnet, and Mumsnet provides that safe community of getting impartial information from other mothers about what they should be doing. They see it as valuable or useful. Or it's very important. British Airways and KLM were very successful with their Twitter feeds, particularly when there was disruption either at the airports because of the volcanoes in Iceland, or when there are strikes involved, etc. People need that information, so are willing to actually go to these sites to get that regular information coming to them. So that information is important to them. Or they want to be associated with these people on that site. So some people may want to go to these sites because they want to be seen to be like the people that are on these sites. So they want to be seen to be like people who drive Ferraris, even though they may not drive Ferrari themselves and may never consider to drive Ferrari, they may want to feel that they're part of a community on the Ferrari Facebook site because they think it's like people like themselves. Will also come, of course, if you give something away. If you give something away for free, whether it's competitions that they can go in for, whether it's games to work out who is the best football player or the best basketball player or whatever, they may take part in polls, etc., in order to try and work out their opinion relative to other people. If they can buy widgets or apps for their phone or whatever, they may also go to these particular sites. But it's about giving something away. Back to this aspect of some of them may only see it about discounts or getting something for free. And then finally, linking back to what I said about the Ferrari situation, young people may also want to enhance their celebrity status. So they may want to be associated with particular brands maybe they can't even afford, but they want to be seen as liking these brands because it says something about their own personal brand as an individual. So they may go to the site for that basis. But you may say, well, companies don't just give everything away for free. I mean, you have sites such as Starbucks, where there are 25 million plus people who say they like that site and follow that particular site. So what's the benefit to an organization of having that many fans or followers or friends or people who like them? I mean, is that something they should be aiming to get? Well, recent research in Australia suggests that it doesn't necessarily mean that people buy more because they're a fan. If you look at research has shown that fans generally are heavy users already of the promoted brand before they go to that site. They don't tend to change their buying behavior simply because they've now become a fan or they like that particular site. They don't change the frequency, they don't change the quantity of what they actually purchase. So Facebook or other social media sites on their own do not attract new buyers, do not attract new sales on their own, certainly in the short term. So if you place large amounts of effort trying to get large numbers of fans, large numbers of followers, it may be less valuable than trying to recruit new customers through other channels such as salespeople, through advertising, through other promotional means rather than just through a social media site itself. It is useful still if social media site in order to interact and to act as a touch point with customers, but what we've got to remember is it doesn't necessarily lead directly to more sales. So it may be much more about maintaining customer service and managing satisfaction with customers far more than actually replacing advertising as a way of attracting more customers. Therefore, the amount of money you spend on this area has to be balanced against that fact that it won't necessarily lead to more sales as a result. Why do customers put comments on social media sites or try and communicate with companies on social media sites? So this is going the other way. Rather than from companies to customers, we're now talking about from customers back to companies. Customers will feed information back because they're engaged with the product or the service or the idea. They're interested and want to feed information back to the organization. They'll do it if they don't have to commit to anything. So if they don't have to sign up, they don't have to register, they don't have to give details about themselves, then they may be willing to actually provide information to the company. If you ask them to register, then a large proportion of them will actually move away from giving that information. They'll interact if there's things they like doing. So if they like doing online voting, then they'll take part and they'll feed that information to the organization. So if the organization wants to know what new product they should launch or whether they should launch a blue one or a red one, then they can use online voting on some of these sites to get feedback that they can use to make their decisions as to what to do next. But customers very quickly stop giving information to companies if they get no reaction back. So it's critical through social media that there is some evidence from the company that they're listening by the fact that they give some sort of response to what people are saying. No response, customers stop communicating. So interaction is the critical part of social media. It's not like a website where you can stick it up, it sits there and nothing changes. Here with social media, it is about customers saying things to the organization and the organization responding back to them. So there's a two-way flow of information. So the company being willing to join the conversation and being seen to be willing to serve the customer better means that people will interact more with the organization. And some companies do this very well. I mean, if you look at Starbucks, and this might be an interesting site to actually look at, is My Starbucks Idea, where they ask people to come up with new ideas about what Starbucks should be doing, how they should change their cafes, how they should change their products, how they should change their service, what they should change in terms of their Wi-Fi. And these comments are coming in by the thousands. What you'll see if you look at their website, thousands of comments are coming in every day. Some of them will be of no use to Starbucks at all. Others will be quite useful to determine how they make decisions in the future. But the only reason people take part in that is because Starbucks say to them, that's a good idea, not a good idea, that's what we're going to take forward, this is how we're going to use that idea. So there is that interaction actually going on with these thousands of responses. So for an organization, in terms of this whole area of social media, it becomes a very critical area about interacting, providing the customer experience, managing that customer experience, and communicating with customers. So for many organizations, what now is important is monitoring what's going on in these social media channels. So there are a whole range of tools, and I have no intention of going through these tools at this point in time, but just to say there are a large number of tools out there for monitoring, searching that data, scraping that data from these sites to better understand what customers are actually saying about you. So they can either be automated, as you see with some of these there. They potentially also could be manual, and there are people who sit in offices, frequently in London, but also elsewhere in the country, who manually analyze what people are saying and monitor that comment or the comments being made in order to determine what they should be doing in the future. And things like Facebook polls give also indications to companies, organizations, charities, etc., what they should be doing, where their money should be going, and how they should focus on certain activities. Once again, a way of getting feedback from the customer that in the past you could only have got from market research. Now you can combine this with market research and potentially get very quick response, and the customers may feel, hey, they're listening to me because they're taking on board what's actually coming through. That's a very wide and very quick overview of what's actually happening with regard to social media and how that impacts on organizations and interaction with customers on that basis. You're now within the class going to be given a task, but before I talk a little bit just about what that task is, I just want to highlight just a number of practical implications from what I've said up to this point. So this is a summary of the key implications. We've got to think about the market. We've got to think about which customers are out there, who are the people who are going to relate to our organization, and therefore what social media channels are they likely to be using, and therefore which are appropriate for our particular market segments. We've got to understand it's not just about having more and more people who are saying they like our site or who are fans of our site. Fan pages do not result in higher brand loyalty or more sales immediately. So we've got to be patient. It's about building that customer experience. Engagement is more important than solely fan page usage. So as I say, it's not about numbers, it's about how much engagement goes on. Generating large amounts of traffic, large numbers of customers is not enough. It's about interaction and engagement. And it only works if the content that's on these sites is valuable to the customer, to the person interested in that organization. It's got to be interesting, it's got to be entertaining, it's got to be innovative. If it's not, they will visit once but never come back. So you want that interaction, you want them to keep coming back to these particular sites. As I say, you're now going to be given a task, but as part of that task, or the first element of that task, is you're being asked to find three things. One is a video, second is a magazine article, and the third is an academic article, all on the topic of social media. Once you've got these particular articles, you will then be asked to do a task that relates to the articles and the video that you actually find. If you're looking for a video, use social media. Go to YouTube, you'll find plenty of videos in relation to this topic. Thank you.